for Sanaya, the suspect on the loose in the Boston Marathon bombing. CNN Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr is following the investigation from Washington. Barbara, welcome. What is the investigation showing you right now?
Well, Christian, here in Washington, both the U.S. intelligence community, the CIA, military intelligence, and law enforcement, the FBI, are joining forces. They are going back through everything they have. Intelligence reports, intercepts, chatter, jihadist website postings, social media, looking at every possible link to these two young men. Where were they on the internet? Who were they communicating with? What were their travel plans? We know one of them went to Russia. Trying to develop this spider web, if you will, of connections, trying to see where they may have interacted with someone who may have influenced them, ordered them to do this. You know, that's really the option here. Were they inspired by militants? Were they ordered? Were they part of a group? Right now, they don't think so. Or were these two young men that somehow just decided on their own to carry this out?
What do they think? That it was the latter? Or the...
Well, yeah, you know, I think at the moment, where the sources I'm talking to do not see an immediate Al-Qaeda connection or a connection to a major Al-Qaeda affiliate. Right now, what they're looking at basically is Central Asia. The groups that operate in Central Asia, could they have been in communication with some of these groups? Were they interacting with them on social media? Did they begin to influence these men? I have to tell you that one U.S. official with access to the latest information told me a short time ago, at the moment, they do not believe that this attack poses a major new terrorist threat to the United States. That doesn't close the chapter on any of this. There's still a great deal of concern about how all this could have happened. They are still looking at everything. But right now, I would say that's pretty much where it stands.
And as you said, they are combing through the sort of modern day database, if you like, the Twitter, the Facebook, the YouTube, all these online postings. It is obviously so much easier to get a hold of anything like that these days, of being influenced if you are susceptible.
Well, you know, I think that's right. You know, if you think of it just a few short years ago, the worry was that you had militants perhaps in madrasas in parts of the world that were very radical, and they were being radicalized when they would travel to these madrasas or to the training camps. It doesn't even take that anymore. You don't have to leave your own house. If you have a social media account in any one of many places, you are in communication with people around the world instantly. You could be influenced by all of that. Many more connections, perhaps some of them very tenuous.
I mean, it's possible that it could have absolutely nothing to do with anything overseas, is it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I will tell you, the sources I'm talking to are saying, be very cautious before you go out there and start talking about things like Al-Qaeda or major Al-Qaeda affiliates. You know, there's so much out there. These two young men apparently had ethnic connections to family connections in Central Asia, ethnic connections to Chechnya, and we know that Chechen fighters are in many movements around the world, including in Syria right now. So very easy to leap to conclusions. That's exactly what we're being warned away from. They're saying be very cautious. This could take a while. Investigators want to take it step by step and be very precise.
Thank you very much indeed, Barbara Starr. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
And I want to turn now to Tom Fuentes, who is the Assistant Director for the FBI and is a law enforcement analyst for CNN. Mr. Fuentes, thank you for being with us. Is there any latest on this particular manhunt before I go into the bigger picture with you?
No, they're still methodically going through the apartments, trying to clear each one very deliberately and carefully. The police say they are now about 70% completed through that process.
Do you think, given all your experience and knowing that this has been so viewed all over the place for the last, several days, could this boy, this teenager, have taken his own life in the interim?
He could have, and it's a strong possibility that he could have and would have incentive to do it. I think a great deal of that would depend on the dynamic that existed between him and his older brother. If you look at videos of them that were released by the FBI yesterday, you see the older brother marching along, and then you see the younger one kind of, following him, like the older brother is the master. And all of the interviews that have been on CNN today here, in the Boston area, the classmates from high school and
right.
other people that knew the younger brother are saying he's so nice, he's been a great friend, he's an American kid, he came here when he was young, and he's been here all these years, and he's one of us. And I think one of his friends even characterized it that way. He's a great American kid.
Right.
So that's him. But the brother is much older. The brother came here when he was 20, and that's what we don't know. So if the brother was putting pressure or intimidating or coercing the younger brother to go along with the program, which he may have done, that's one thing. And they go through the attack, they decide not to commit suicide but enjoy their handiwork and remain at the scene of the bombings, and in the midst of the carnage they're acting like spectators, much like you see arsonists do at a fire. They tend to hang around and watch their handiwork. So they don't martyr themselves at that time. And then, several days go by and we don't hear from them, and efforts are being done to locate them. Then the FBI chooses yesterday afternoon, Washington time, to release the photos, to release the videos and the photos that they had, and that goes all over the world on the internet and through social media and on websites. And once that happened, you almost have to believe they must have felt cornered. They must have felt a much greater degree of pressure and know that we know a lot of people are going to look at those pictures and pick us out. And who knows who's going to turn us in at this point.
From all of your experience and from your gut, having watched this now and being close to knowing what's going on in the FBI circles, are they narrowing it down, do you think, to foreign terrorism, as we've been discussing, potentially, or domestic? What does your gut tell you from what you know now?
I don't think they've narrowed that down. I want to make that call yet. It seems as though they were not funded, supported, or deployed by an overseas organization. And certainly that helps explain why this many days after the original attack, no one overseas took credit for it. Unlike when we had the Times Square incident, we had the Pakistani Taliban take credit for it. Abdul Muttalib, the underwear bomber, you had Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula immediately take credit for it. So this one, it appears like nobody overseas really recruited them or deployed them to do this attack. So somehow they developed this internally on their own. Now, whether someone else in the U.S. somehow helped in the radicalization process or whether that happened on their own, that we don't know yet, and that'll, I think, be identified at some point down the line here. But it seems as though they were inspired maybe by overseas events, but the recruiting and the radicalization process occurred here in the United States and probably locally in the Boston area.